Houston Station, we are ready for the event.
Can you make your dreams and desires become reality? Can you manifest?
Hello, everybody. I'm here and again, and I have some amazing guests who I am just going to put on straight away because we don't want you sitting behind the scenes. We have Amy Zerner and Monte Farber with us today, and we are really going to go into the depths of quantum manifestations, quantum affirmations, and we're going to discuss, we were already doing behind the scenes, just how possible manifestation is today and why we should all be doing it. So thank you so much, both of you, for joining me.
Well, thank you for having us.
And thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this great conference, because it's like you say, we're going into 2021. We got to re-empower our dreams and hopes and wishes and know that we can achieve them.
Yeah, well, we were talking about that and the possibilities of manifestation today. And we were also discussing the possibility that some people have lost hope in 2020. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you think you cannot manifest just because of external events, then you really need your conference more than anybody else. Because Amy and I have been using this time to manifest more than we've ever manifested in our life. And of course, I don't want to get into hubris and act like I think that the good times are going to last forever. But we've been having good times when the times are so bad for so many different people, because each person creates their own reality in a sense.
We also are used to being freelancers, and all of our lives we're artists and writers, and you never know what the next job is going to be or what the next project. I mean, that gave birth to our quantum affirmations, which are not regular affirmations.
No, not
They're
at
not
all.
your grandmother's affirmations.
Even though your grandmother was probably more positive than a lot of the people today.
I think people are used to the idea that not quantum affirmations, but regular affirmations are like, I'm going to have a lot of money, and they get deflated because that doesn't really come true, even though you're trying to will that. Our affirmations, the quantum affirmations, you see the whole picture. You see the positive and the negative.
Right.
For instance, say your goal is to get more resources and more help for this dream that you have, maybe a project, a career. And so you start to visualize that. It's definitely a movie in your mind's eye that we'll give you in our workshop. We'll give you our special techniques for doing that. But you also visualize what maybe the hardships or challenges to achieving that goal will be. In other words, if you get the resources, you're going to have more paperwork to do, you're going to have more details to attend to, more people to deal with. So in feeling that wholeness to your goal, it makes it come true.
I have a friend who's a really amazing astrologer, and he's a little upset with various aspects of what people call the New Age or the New Thought movement, because he says you people are addicted to hopium, too positive. And the thing with our quantum affirmations technique is you embrace the negatives as well, because if you think your future is not going to have any negatives, when we were good friends with Louise Hay, and we would spend birthdays with her. And I have nothing but admiration for her. But if you say to yourself, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better, your subconscious knows that in a couple of ways, you're not getting better and better. So, you're getting older, whatever, you're moving a little slower. So our quantum affirmations technique is all about reality. The realer you can see, the realer it will be, is one of the little sentences.
But I don't blame people for now. I mean, you turn on the news and it's limits. You can't do this, you can't go there. We don't see an end to the virus. So naturally we feel disempowered. I mean, how do you get in touch with your own power again? And I mean, this technique we have is really based on science, because with quantum mechanics, there's no time and space, and you're proving this with your conference
Yes.
across the globe.
Yeah.
Different time zones, we're connected with you right now, and I think maybe that can give people hope that this is an example of how we can reach each other and reach out through time and space without limits.
And look how you manifested this whole conference. I mean, that's very impressive to us. We know how hard it is to even do a thing for just the two of us, and you're doing it for, 50 people?
Maybe that's entanglement.
Not at all. That's quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement is part of the reasons our quantum affirmation technique works, because quantum entanglement is one of what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, where if you take two atoms and spin them together and they get entangled, you can move them to different sides of the universe, and you spin one and the other one will spin. So
what you might not know about me is I am absolutely a complete quantum physics, mechanics, everything head, and I try and break my brain with that as often as possible.
Oh, so, I know. Well, what did Niels Bohr say? If you don't think quantum mechanics is crazy, then you don't really understand it.
Exactly, and that's one of my favorite, and I call it one of my favorite spiritual practices, is actually learning as much quantum physics or of the quantum realms as possible.
Well, that's great.
The theory of everything,
yes.
So that I can personally try and make the universe make sense to me. And so when you came with quantum affirmations, I thought,
yes.
Well, the thing with quantum affirmations is it is based in physics, in the sense that quantum mechanics postulates that there's no time, in the sense that Einstein said that time is the resistance to everything happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. So that in every moment there are different probable futures implied. So quantum affirmations, our technique, is designed to get you to the implied probable future that you want to be in, as opposed, it's like, do you want to be in a car without a steering wheel? That's really what quantum physics is saying to you, that there are futures out there. Do you want to get to them, just haphazardly, or we discovered this technique. I was homeless. I was sad
when you were young.
When I was young. And Amy and I have been together for 45 years. And one day I sat down and I said, how did I do this? How did I get, why am I so happy? And I know that things can change in a dime. Things can turn on a dime. Things can change really fast. But right now things are really good. So I realized that there was this technique that I would do. Growing up with a New York City police sergeant father, I would always look on the negative, and I would never imagine a future without the negative. And this is the problem people have with affirmations in general. They'll do the affirmations and then they'll hit a negative wall and they'll stop.
Well, they say, for instance, they want to meet a life partner, but they haven't yet. So say somebody starts to dream, I want that love, I want that kind of love, but then they think in the back of their mind, well, I've never had it, so maybe I'm not going to meet them,
And in our technique, when you get the negative, oh my God, that's a sign, that's the signpost up ahead that says you're entering the twilight zone, but the good twilight zone that is telling you, wow, you're looking at it realistically. Yes, you're going to have a new partner, and that partner, you might not like his dog or her dog, or you might not like having to worry about, I can't just go anywhere I want. I have to think about another person. And it's all about getting into the real aspect of what life is. Amy and I do a lot of different things, so we know a lot of different aspects of life.
But that's also really nice, because at the moment there is a buzzword of toxic spirituality.
Yeah.
And this Love and Light Brigade
hopium.
who send out love and light consistently to everybody, and whether that actually is a path to go on the manifestation route, just to be that pure positive being. And honestly, that doesn't fit in my life. That
nobody. Do you know anybody like that? I don't.
Maybe even the Dalai Lama is pretty practical.
Yeah. That's very true. So I think that fits in really well, and the fact that it fits in with a foundation of how it works, not just a superficial say this every day and you will feel better, but the like you say, the negative aspects of it then catapulting, as well as
Oh yeah, because if your subconscious is not going to walk you into the fire. If you come up on the negative and you think, "Oh, I can't handle that," well, you just told your subconscious, "Don't bring me there. Don't bring me to that future." Meanwhile, if you come up to the negative, and this is, you're right. A lot of people don't want to see the negative. If you come up,
Well, it scares them.
it's scary. Yeah. But the classic is, if you win the lottery, the relatives are going to come out of the woodwork. There's no positive without a negative. It just doesn't happen.
I think the process that we're going to offer in our workshop, we're actually giving sort of a beginners and a advanced the next day on Saturday and Sunday. The process really makes you aware of how your mind works, and to be more mindful. I mean, sometimes I'm surprised when I do quantum affirmations and we suggest, a sort of morning and night routine where it only takes like a minute to do that visualization. I'm surprised what crops up when I want something, that I stop myself, or I think it can't happen, or that nobody's going to help with that, or that whole process makes you see how you limit yourself. And the more and more we kind of break out of that, and the whole quantum theory is like wide open to possibilities.
Yeah.
But I think another thing that crops up when we work with people is that they really don't know what they want. They
Yes.
might have a broad idea like I want more money, but what are they going to do with it? You have to be kind of specific.
Yeah, in quantum affirmations, that's the first thing is, what do you want? When I do readings for people, whether that's with astrology or tarot cards or psychic stuff, I say, what do you want to know?
and this is all on your website as well. That I put in the links below.
Oh, thank you.
For
Thanks.
everybody.
Yeah, and we've been doing, Amy and I have been together for 45 years, and things just keep getting better and better. So if you want to get manifestation information from people who are actually good manifestors, I think you have a right to know who you're getting your stuff from. But getting back to quantum, and I love the fact that you're a quantum person. The ancients had the concept of the Akashic record, and now that's called the quantum field.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is to hook up with the quantum field to send out your information and receive the information that's going to get you to the future, the probable future that you want to get to. And I think everybody who's in your who's going to be speaking at your conference is doing it in a different way. Like, you have a mountain behind you. There's a lot of different routes up the mountain.
I think the nice thing is through doing the series of lives as well, that what I have taken away from it is that people use different terminology.
Yeah.
But we actually are all getting to a similar place. So the quantum realms, or the quantum realm for me, where we are at that level, I call it superconscious, and that is the quantum realm for me.
Yes.
And other people call it higher self, but for me, again, that would be a similar place in which, like the Akashic records, there's so many different names for that level or realm, that but the manifestors, or the people who are manifesting, are all seem to be working at a similar level.
Yeah, and quantum, not only quantum affirmations, but quantum physics is an explanation actually for spontaneous healing, because in quantum physics, as you well know,
yes,
time does not necessarily only flow forwards; it flows backwards too. And if you hook up with a quantum past where the conditions that produced your illness do not exist, and I'm not saying it's easy, but if you read the literature, there have been cases of spontaneous healing.
You can tell I'm getting excited, can't you? Because I told Michelle the other day that I actually contacted a physicist at CERN to try and get them to prove that, because that's my belief too, that the healing that we do is linked with the quantum realms.
Yes.
And they said no, they didn't think so.
Well, that's just like the doctors who refuse to, they get a week's training in food. Meanwhile, Hippocrates, the oath that they all swear, the first thing he said was, thy food shall be thy remedy. Mm-hmm. So the scientists, they're not the priests of yore, that's for sure.
No.
They're afraid.
I was hoping that a theoretical physicist, because they're into theories and proving thereof, would be interested in, I don't know, an explanation or, you know.
But their reputation means too much to them. They're afraid that there's so much of that going on that, they don't want to be disinvited to the parties.
Well, it's all changing little by little.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been into this stuff since the 60s, and if I had ever dreamed that you'd get organic food in every grocery store, it would have, blown my mind. Or, I mean, just spiritual books in every grocery store practically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, things are changing a little bit. We were just invited to, it's not clinched yet, but make a deal with a leadership site that's very business focused in the regular leadership kind of thing that you see all over, but bringing our spiritual kind of psychic intuition tools to that. So I mean that's a big change right there.
Well,
where it's accepted.
I was just going to say manifestation helps you make money, and once you're talking about money, then all of a sudden everybody's ears pick up. And because the things that stop you from manifesting are the things that stop you from manifesting more money. And that's usually one of the first things people want.
And
they want it, but they don't. Are they thinking what they actually want to do with it? In our technique, we want you to break it down to really see the movie in your mind's eye of what you're going to do with the money, because we all need more resources.
Sure.
But I think if one thing that this time that we're in, where there's experts out there and we're not sure who to trust or what to listen to, where we really have to rely on our intuition, and we really know we're sort of on our own in a way to make magic. We need tools that work.
And fear is the destroyer. But fear is the reason that people will say, "Oh, I'm not going to take that course because it can't possibly work." But guess what? It does work. And right now, everybody is so scared of everybody else. If someone comes within 6 feet of you, you cringe. You raise your mask above your nose. So many people wear them incorrectly, and so and living in lockdown, which is solitary confinement, it's starting to show, and people are starting to not believe anyone.
Well, it takes their power drained right out.
Yeah.
But we know that when we talk about manifestation, what do people want? They want more money, more love, better career, beautiful place to live. And so say you're alone, locked in, or you're thinking, I'm never going to meet anybody.
Unless the FedEx guy or the UPS guy or the DHL guy.
But we want people to break out of that and see other possibilities, because that's quantum thinking.
And it's magic. Magic is what it is until you know the scientific basis. Like a weed is a flower you just don't know how to use yet. And
you can take small things. I mean, we want people to have a goal that they can see how it pans out and how they can achieve it. Like maybe they want to get along better with one of their relatives.
That's a big one.
You can apply. Actually, it's a big one around the holidays, right?
That's the hard one. But the thing is when we help people with the first step, which is what do you want? Let's say they say I want to have love in my life, and then when you get down to it, then it comes down to with a lot of people, I don't want to feel lonely. And then what I'll say to them when I'm working as a counselor is, you don't have to feel lonely right now. And it's to get more and more and peel that onion. And when you peel onions, you cry a little bit. But at the same time, to get down to the heart of you don't want to be lonely. So let's work on that rather than I want a partner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it also can be fun, right?
Yeah, it's got to be fun.
Obviously, the work that you do, the work that we do, we like to go deep. We like to help other people go deep. And to me, that's fun to sort of see what we can make happen, to see what works and what doesn't work. There's a lot of experimenting, and that's fun as an artist. That's what I do all the time.
Sorry, we're so passionate about it that we're just chattering away like magpies.
So if somebody came to you and said, how does manifestation work? What would be your fundamental belief system on that?
You want to take it or me?
You take it, honey.
Well, I used to talk about it as a phonograph record, and now phonograph vinyl is coming back. So I'll try it again. Think about it is the younger.
What's that?
Well, phonograph record is a needle that vibrates in a groove. So, but think of the present moment as the point of that needle, and instead of one groove that the phonograph record follows all the way to the center of the record, the recording. There's a million, or not say a million. Let's say there's six different grooves it can go out of. So that's how I see the present moment and the probable futures. And how do you get your needle to go into the groove that you want? Certainly, the one way you don't do it is to just say, well, whatever you say, I'm with it. The other way is to have a conscious technique for doing it. And I'm sure a lot of the techniques of the people in your conference are another variation on what I'm saying. And my way of doing it is to quantum tunnel. That's another fabulous concept right there. Is to quantum tunnel to the future you want to get to and plant your flag there. And how do you do that? You visualize it. We call it a contemplation. That's our little creative.
I like that.
Oh, good. You do a contemplation where you see in your mind, where you see in your mind's eye the future you want to get to, warts and all. And like I said, if you win the lottery, you're going to have relatives asking you for money. You're going to have all kinds of people asking you for money. If you want a partner, you might not like the perfume they use, and see that. And when you see it, don't back off. Plunge in even further, because that shows you. Get it in. What is that? You came up with something out of the book that was really good before. Sorry, we're just we're technologically.
Okay. This is because we all have parts of ourselves that are complainers and woe is me. So we want to utilize that energy in a new, more effective way. So Monte wrote, retain it and retrain it, and you won't have to restrain it. The negatives.
Yeah, in other words, when you retrain what you see as negative as realizing that you're seeing things actually clearly. Because nothing is ever as good as
realistically.
Yeah, because nothing's ever as good as you think it's going to be, and nothing's ever, with the exception of quite a few things, nothing's ever really as bad. I mean, we're not being thrown into prisons, though we're all living in solitary confinement now, and in the hole. And
well, say you have a product you want to sell, you're really passionate about it. Like we make books, we want books to sell more. Right. Then you have to visualize that, see them on the shelves. I mean, it takes practice, maybe if you're not so used to making movies in your head. See them on the shelves, seeing people buy them, seeing them rung up, but also see more pressure on you for the next book. And you have to have a deadline for the next book, or you have to deal with new people in the publishing, or whatever makes it real, makes it come true.
And you can also see the fact that you can't see everything. There's the unknown that you don't know.
Well, yeah. Then you kind of leave it to divine order.
And that you've trained yourself to accept the fact that there's going to be things coming out of the blue, and you can deal with them because you've dealt with them in the past. At a certain point, you have to be courageous because, like I said, fear is a destroyer. We just had the most crazy thing happen. We had two of our most best-selling products go out of stock because of COVID, and everyone's locked down. And everyone's buying, and we're doing more and more promotion for the work. And guess what? It worked. But there's a negative that came out of the blue.
That's a negative for an author.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. Amazon's saying it's not in stock. And you call your publisher, and there's no, well, we're having problems with China, and we're having problems with this, and it's out of stock till December 1st. Well, today it's back in stock. So that's the Enchanted Tarot and Karma cards, which have been selling for 30-something years.
I think that's what you're doing though is also allowing people to have that natural thought process. So you're not pushing it down to get rid of that negative thought process because it doesn't align with the law of attraction or something else. You're allowing somebody, comforting them to say that actually that's a normal process of life.
Yes.
And that the future life will also include that kind of
Yes.
normal process.
Yes, and I read for a lot of very wealthy people. We live out in an area called the Hamptons.
I know the Hamptons, my goodness.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
Amy grew up here. Amy actually went to East Hampton High School.
Very nice.
So I read for a lot of wealthy people. And if you think wealthy people, I'm not saying you, but if a person thinks that wealthy people don't have problems, oh my God, they just have different problems. One of the problems is I actually had someone say this: when I get below $8 million, I get really scared. And I wanted to hit
You
him.
have to be compassionate.
My first was like, what? What did you just say? And you check your ears. Did I really hear that? But that's their reality. Their reality. And I was teaching the quantum affirmations to a friend of mine, and I said, and visualize yourself having $1 million coming in. He said, could it be $1 billion? He did, but because he's a billionaire.
Wow.
Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we think small. I mean, I've learned doing this technique over the years how my goal, was just so small compared to, what was possible. And I've learned to grow mature, sort of with my goals and thinking bigger and thinking of more possibilities. And it's very empowering. And it's a process of becoming, knowing yourself and knowing why maybe certain traumas have restricted how you think, and
Yeah.
it's very therapeutic, really, to see what comes up in your mind.
Well, that's why your conference is so important. People really have to get in touch with their ability to manifest any way that they relate to it. It's like someone asked me the other day, which tarot deck should I get? I said, go into the store and see which one you resonate with.
Yeah.
I mean, the easy answer is get mine, but but that's not accurate. It's got to be the one that falls off the shelf or the one that someone's playing with the minute you walk in the store. Get in touch with the quantum field. Get in touch with magic. Get in touch with the magic in your. What did Einstein say? You can live like either everything's a miracle or like nothing's a miracle.
Yeah, and I think it's also that I call it breaking my brain, but also to me, it's just being open to anything.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like the conferences this year, last year I probably wouldn't have even thought about doing a conference this year, but the possibility opened up because of COVID, and because I was in a decent place within myself at the time, and with a mind open enough to choose a different direction or choose a way forward that at the time in May time was super risky for me. I was very nervous about the first one. But it is that also the accepting that we don't know everything, or the accepting that maybe the quantum direction that we want to be in looks slightly different to exactly how we're imagining it.
Yeah,
it's always different.
Well, it's always different. Well, you focus and you make this movie and you have this goal and this wish, and you have trust that it's going to happen, but it does always come in a different way and sort of a different time. But that's the adventure of it.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't realize that it's happened. All of a sudden you're in that, and that's what people got to remember. When you're talking about manifesting, you're talking about the future. You're talking about getting into a future, and nothing is promised. All expectations are unreasonable, and the easiest way to have what you want is to want what you have, and that's where we teach people to start off with feeling. Be thankful for what you have. I'm not saying that you always have to be longing for a future you don't have at this moment. Let's say you're going to have it, but at the same time, if you get more comfortable with who you are and what you have now, that's a great foundation. Like the mountain behind you again. Look how wide it is at the bottom. You have to make that foundation. That's what we're talking about with our technique. It's a foundation for you to build your own mountain on top of.
Well, also this time we're in is a really time for resetting our goals, seeing how what's imposed on us and what we can make happen as a result of it. And I think, your conference is coming at a perfect time and group things like this really have energy and we can gain from other people's trust and other people's belief and other people's tips and techniques, and that's going to feed all of us, because it's obviously a mind body spirit kind of energetic that can really be powerful, and to
Well,
make it, and once we're all in that space, we can make the future better,
that's
because I
another.
think we all participated in making what happened happen, on a metaphysical level.
Mhm.
There's obviously a reset time bound to happen. Just
Yeah.
like when we get sick, we understand metaphysically that why that crisis happened and how we can get better and how we can go to another level.
Well, that was also another of my places I lose myself in, and the quantum realms being that area in which we can all access. And if we can all access that, what knock-on effect are we having on one another and one another's manifestations?
Yes.
And how that then, the theory
Yeah.
of everything, then comes together in a whole. How is my little corner of the universe affecting anybody else's manifestations, for example?
Well, obviously it does, because we need to entangle with other people that are going to help make our reality the reality we want, and vice versa. And sometimes it can happen in a way that we don't want. If everyone's falling into a pit of despair and negativity, that the toxic negativity instead of helpful negativity.
Well, you've assembled the army of manifestation. You have.
Well, people say they want peace. They want peace on earth, right? But
Yeah.
do they really?
Well, they can't
Are
have peace
they
with
going
their
to do it with their
neighbor.
neighbor? Yeah. Are they going to do it with their mother? I mean, it's when you're saying what you're saying, it all comes down to that small little piece that we contribute to the whole.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, the hounds have found us.
Whoops. So if we're using quantum affirmations, and you spoke about the
It was there. Here.
the future already being, or alternate futures being available at any moment, the quantum mechanics of things being available to us at any given moment in time, depending on our view of it. How then, when we set or begin with our quantum affirmations, do we know which alternate manifestation we're looking for there, or do we know that? Can we choose a ridge in the record, for example, like you said, or do we have to be a little bit more flexible with it?
You have to be flexible, because like I said, it never happens the way you think it's going to happen.
Well, I can give an example. Years ago, when we first started experimenting with this, and a lot of the information was channeled by Monte, to put it into a system. But we wanted
to do a video.
I was going to say that we want about our bookshelf at Barnes and Noble.
Oh yeah, we said, you know what? We're going to have our own shelf at every Barnes and Noble store.
This was a goal. This was a goal.
And we actually printed up little shelf talkers, these things that go under your books.
So we could visualize it better, and we would make mock-ups of books, and we made a shelf, and we would, every morning, every night, we would visualize that. But so what happened, in a way that we wouldn't know, to address what you were asking.
And the sales department at our publisher said we were crazy, because they wouldn't go to Barnes and Noble and ask for us, because we're with a lot of different publishers. But then it came in the weirdest way possible. A friend that we had worked with at the book club got a job working for Sterling, which is owned by Barnes and Noble.
And she made a deal, and it took a while for us to be an imprint that was owned by Barnes and Noble, and we eventually had our own shelf at Barnes and Noble.
And we still do today.
It took a while, and it wasn't in a way that we didn't even know that possibility existed.
Right, and it still doesn't in a way, because you're at the mercy of store clerks in terms of where they put out the books, and whether they put them out end out, And that's the kind of visualization that I would now advise somebody who was trying to do the same thing. Visualize the store clerk putting it out the wrong way and you coming in and having to straighten them out, or your friends doing it all over the country.
You learn to kind of add, the more life experience you have, you can
Yeah.
add little ingredients to your visualization. But that addresses what you were asking, that we put the intention out there, but then we separated our attention and we didn't know how the universe, the mechanism was going to, make it come
It also
true.
shows how your friend was involved as well. So the
Yes.
the
Yes.
knock-on effect of other
Yes.
Yeah.
manifestations or lives in that. Did you use the manifestation technique with the clothing line at
Yes.
Bergen?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you have to.
I mean, people might not know everything we do, but we're authors. We've written a lot of books, and I'm a fashion designer and an artist. But the fashion design, so since I was little, loved to design clothes. It was like a passion. And then I got into, through magic and imagining that I really loved this, I got into Bergdorf Goodman, which was sort of the height of the fashion industry. And then I didn't have my own rack there. I just was sort of a little to the side, but I was
Well,
in,
she
I
got
was
in.
in there. I was
That was
in
her.
there.
That was her first store.
I got my foot in there, but then we started saying we want my own rack. So we would do the visualization every morning, every night, and
I saw the posts of the
Oh, yeah.
the rack.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I've
and-
had the rack for quite a few years
And
now.
people normally have to pay for that. It's like supermarket slotting fees, you know?
Because I'm a one person show. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I make one of a kind things. So
I must say, I said wow when I
oh,
saw it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Because there are fashion houses that have
Yeah.
corporate backing, but I'm like one of a kind little artist. So I'm the only one there like that. But it just goes to show you can make things happen that seem impossible.
Yeah.
And the universe does conspire with you once you put your intention out there in the real world. You have to be passionate about it. You have to believe. You have to trust. And
you have
that's
to have-
challenging sometimes, because sometimes we doubt, and there's a lot to reinforce our doubts, right?
And right now it's a scary time. You know, Bergdorf's was closed for quite some time. They've only recently reopened, and the foot traffic is nothing. There's no tourists coming to New
And
York.
I find myself thinking, well, it's not going to, it's over, or it's not going to happen, or, shopping is dead. It's all online. So I have to kind of come back into
Yeah.
a reality that I want. And we're always shifting, if we examine our thoughts and be mindful of what's going on there, it's only my own doubt, or something I read, or some journalist's opinion. So I have to come back into helping create the reality that I want.
Because we're all magicians. What did Mark Twain say? He said I'm an old.
Remember quotes like you do.
Yeah. Well, I sort of lived my life by him. He said, I'm an old man. My life has been filled with many worries, most of which never happened. So, yeah, so I think about that. I mean, right now we don't know what's going to happen with Amy's fashion career, but the thing is, you have to have faith. Faith does come into it at a certain point on a personal level.
When you work for yourself, I think just being involved with divination, we all kind of naturally trust that the cards are telling us something, reflecting something to us. So we're all kind of ahead of the game. And if you're just starting out, trying to have more faith in yourself, there are all these tools that you're presenting with your various teachers, and we have our techniques that work for us. And, it's good for people to try. It's like an artist, I'll try this paint, I'll try those pencils. You have to try different things. One of them is going to work for you. It's just like finding the deck that resonates with you.
Right.
I was actually going to ask as well, astrology-wise, whether there are makeups that struggle more with having the faith in manifestation, for example, or need perhaps different routes to get into their end manifestation.
That's a good point.
That's a really good question. I would say, you were talking about Capricorn before. Capricorn is all about reality. The ruling planet of Capricorn is Saturn. Saturn 9, the very word comes from Saturn.
But they have the fish's tail, which is a spiritual aspect.
But because they know reality, with a Capricorn or with any of the earth signs, they have to understand that manifestation is a practical method that actually works. Because especially Capricorn, they only want to know things that work. They know that they're realistic enough to know that you only have a certain time on earth. You only have a certain amount of hours in the day. And so if they're going to get involved with something, it's got to work. But that's what we're trying. I think that's what the whole conference is about.
Well, it's funny because, as an artist, I've sold my work over the years. More Capricorns than any other sign have bought my work.
That's interesting.
Wow.
So they work hard to get the money to buy what they want.
Right.
But I think also is similar to me, my makeup with my sun in Gemini and then my ascendant being Capricorn. I've understood that as I've grown in myself, that maybe that's where my need for quantum physics or,
Yes.
some kind of underlying foundation that makes sense to me, that I allow then the rest of me to enjoy.
Well, your Gemini is open. I mean, Geminis are open and flexible. I think, in terms of astrological symbolism, the fire signs have the most faith of all the signs, the Aries, the Leo, and Sagittarius. They're just, that fire is faith, so sometimes it's easier for them to sort of jump in and feel that fire.
Yeah, and they're like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, another quote, we only have fear, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Like for Aries especially, if they get afraid, that's the only thing that they're afraid of is feeling afraid, because they're usually going forward with all this faith. And then the water signs are emotionally connected, so they have to know that it works on an emotional level. The fire signs have to know that it's something that it could be an arrow in their quiver, because they're more aggressive. The earth signs, like I said, has to be practical, and the air signs get into the idea of the thing, and they don't necessarily even need to manifest stuff. They can just be. They can be happy.
Theoretical.
They can be navel gazing about it, and the Aquarius, the Gemini, and excuse. I know, isn't that funny? And Libra. Libra is going to be happy to be in the middle, just looking at the two sides of the balance scale.
No, that's so true.
As long as
Sorry.
I was just going to say, as long as the bills are paid, they can just noodle around with it.
And do you, because obviously you have the Oracle deck as well, would you see divination tools as a means for affirmation or means for manifestation?
Yeah,
because that reflects back to where you're at right now today, and gives you a hint of how to deal with it. I love to ask the cards, how can I best deal with this situation or this block or this goal, what will get me there faster. I mean, it's a constant way to see where you're at and to see where other people are at too. I mean, we always have our cards. They're our best friends.
Yeah, and we think that divination has the word divine in it, so it's a way to get in touch with the divine.
These are, some people watching might not know who we are. Sometimes they know our creations, but not who we are. But the Enchanted Tarot is one of our classics, and Karma Cards was the first book that Monte did in 1988, and this one came out this year. Talk about challenging to release a book, during the...
Yeah, just as they closed the warehouses at Amazon.
Oh, no.
Yes, just as they closed the warehouses to books because they had to get people food.
Well, we're very into wellness, so we have astrology for wellness because we all have to take good care of ourselves. And
and we've sold close to 3 million copies of our work in 17 languages.
Wow.
But we've been doing it since 1988. Karma Cards first came out in 1988. But we have about 12 or 15 what they call evergreen titles, which are titles that stay in print year after year. So part of being an author is to realize that one day the odds are your book's going to go out of print. But with us, we sell it again. We've done it several times.
And they say you can't do that.
Then they say you can't do that. And I have to say that when...
you have to not listen to certain people.
Well, including the people who love you, because they're trying to help you. And if you're going to try something... We had the person we love the most in the world tell us you can't make money in books.
And also, your father said you should have been an accountant.
Right.
So you gotta be true to yourself. And
That's so very true.
I had spent like 20 minutes explaining why I love music because at the time I was a musician and writing songs and had a band or whatever. And he looked at me and said, maybe you should have been an accountant. But he meant well. He didn't want me to starve.
I had people tell me to give up painting when I was young.
I
Or
think it's a
yeah,
standard thing that people do along the way. Here in Germany, it's very, you fit in the box or you don't fit in the box. So I found my children don't fit in the box. But the school system is set for that, is set for being in a box. And for
Yes.
example, at the lower end, the kids are only tested on the three main things, which is German, maths, and technical knowledge. When I say that, I mean everyday living knowledge. I can't think of the word in English.
I don't think there is a word for that.
with civics, what is it?
But they don't get grades in anything else. So arts,
Wow.
music, everything else, nothing is graded. So unless they do well in the three main subject areas, then they don't get through school, or they go to a lesser school afterwards.
Right. So what about art and music?
They're nothing.
Oh my God. Was
I
it always
know.
like that, or is that a recent?
It's been, as far as I know, since they have what they call Schulpflicht here, and that is that every child from 6 years old has to be in school, and that was after the Second World War.
I see.
So there's no homeschooling. Everybody gets the same education and same chances, as they say. But even at my eldest son's age of 13, the only important areas are four of them. One of them's English now. And so in the other ones, they're getting what they call Norton, which are the grades, but it still doesn't count for them moving forward.
Wow.
So it's a shame, really, that children are sorted very much into you're either good at maths and German or you're not.
I know, and manifestation and astrology and tarot card reading should all. I actually had the chance to once teach a 5th grade class. My nephew,
Wow.
the teacher was crazy, I guess, and let me do it. But the kids got it really fast, and I think it's one of the reasons that there are discipline problems. Is there's no more religion, so there's no more feeling of connection to something greater than themselves.
And what's more
It's
important
very
than creativity?
This
Yeah.
is so very true. And at the school, you either do Catholicism or you do ethics. And there's no overall thing of everybody learning about every religion anymore.
That's crazy.
I know. Tell me about it. I have to have my kids there.
I think we're very torn now between moving into the future just technologically. There's so much magic there, and then the traditions, are falling away, and
The resistance.
and then the box, even with adults in this time we live in, you're either this or you're that, or if I don't agree with you, I'm going to block you, or the whole idea of just free thinking, which as artists, that's what you want, and to do the work that we're talking about, the manifestation and the divination, you have to let your mind free associate. That's the key.
And then when we were doing it, as I'm sure you've probably experienced yourself, you have to be able to suffer the slings and arrows of fools. I remember this one attorney saying, "You believe in astrology? You two are cretins." He didn't even pronounce cretin correctly, and he was telling me that. He's dead now, but that's not the reason. but you have to be able. You have to, once again, fear is the destroyer. You have to know yourself well enough to resist letting other people's opinion of you determine who you are.
And that's a tough journey on yourself sometimes.
Yes.
But you have
And
to,
it's harder for people that I grew up in Brooklyn during the gang war years of the 50s
Wow.
and 60s. And the worst thing you could do was to let people know they were getting to you.
I
So
can
you,
imagine. I
yeah,
can't imagine.
well, they could say what they wanted, but you just had to
You
deal
couldn't
with
be a
it.
snowflake.
You couldn't. No, there were no snowflakes in my neighborhood, even when it snowed. I mean, having a policeman father actually helped a lot. I probably wouldn't have made it out of there if it wasn't for
Wow.
because people used to be afraid of the police back in that time. But I feel for people who are allow other people to determine who they are and to influence them and make their hide, as the Bible says, hide their light under a bushel.
When you know astrology, you kind of honor all the individualism. I mean, and we grew up, during hippie time in the 60s. That's, you wanted to be your own person. You wanted to be different. You didn't want to dress like anyone else. And I see a lot of young people now that want to look like everyone else, or they're
Yeah.
afraid to not think like everyone else. And it must be hard to be a parent now with that going on.
And if we met somebody who believed what the politicians were saying or believed of any side, of any
We were so
argument,
skeptical when we were growing up. We didn't. There wasn't.
and if someone said, you know what they said on the news, we'd look at them like, you are out of your mind. And you'd shun these people. You didn't want to be around anyone who believed a politician or who believed the mainstream media. Nobody. And so like today, when we see people being influenced by what's on the mainstream media or what this politician or we're like, and you believe that? We just, it's incredulous to us. That's why I guess we've retreated into making our own reality, because yes, we're in their reality too, the reality of not being able to believe a word you hear what anyone says. Masks, no masks, social distancing, no social distancing, lockdown, no lockdown. You got to go within yourself to find out what's true now.
Yeah, and I think there's also in so many countries now that the people going away from each other, it's almost like a forced cut between two sides of the coin, that especially in the UK with Brexit, for example, it's very one way or the other, black or white.
Yeah. Well, in the sky right now, the planet Uranus, which is the butt of all astrological jokes, Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, and Uranus represents revolution, freedom, excitement, keep your life new and exciting, and it's in the sign of Taurus, which is let's make everything last forever and not change a damn thing. So it's not a happy camper.
So we have that polarity pulling.
So that's just one planet, and there's a lot of hard aspects being made to it. But the other thing is the planet Neptune, which rules the sign Pisces, is all about the other world, the Christ consciousness, putting negation of the ego, putting yourself second and working for the good of humanity on a one-to-one basis. And it's in this home sign of Pisces. Now, those two planets, because Uranus takes 80 years to go around the solar system, and Neptune takes 160 years. They haven't been in these two signs in this same combination since the run-up to the American Civil War. And when I saw this coming, I started writing about this, and nowadays, I don't know how it is where you are. You're in Germany, right?
Yeah.
But you can't read an article in the United States without the word Civil War being somewhere in the article.
We're the same here because we have not the exact terms, but we do have large masses of people standing up suddenly and saying this isn't right.
Yeah, you had that big case where they said had national significance. It was a local something about I think it was a business thing, but it had national.
About COVID.
The what?
Was it about COVID?
I think it was. It was a local council said that no one had the right to do anything.
Yeah, the great thing here is if one person goes to the Supreme Court or equivalent of with a complaint against the government in some way, they have to act on it. Oh. So it doesn't have to be a collective. It can be just one person. And they stood up and said, I don't think my restaurant should be closed because of this. And it affected the whole city.
Right.
And they then turned over the judgment.
Dusseldorf.
Was it Karlsruhe?
It could have been, yeah. It could have been. There's been a few now. They tried it in Munich as well.
Huh.
But there's been a few where people have stood up and said, "No, this is not fair on these grounds," which it isn't, because some businesses
Yeah.
are closed, other businesses are open. There's
It's just there's
no
a lot of hypocrisy in all of those decisions.
Yeah.
A bar out in the United States put the sign Walmart on their because Walmart's open.
Well, that's a big
Really?
chain here where it's been
Yeah.
open since the beginning, and if that can be open, why can't this be open?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
And-
It's
and
the
then-
small people the small businesses who are struggling.
Yeah, and the CDC and the World Health Organization are saying that plunging the world into poverty and making poor people poorer and middle class people poor is going to have more of a long-term effect than any health thing. And then I think there was just something about Japan.
More suicides than COVID deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's got to change.
It's so sad.
And speaking of Einstein, to do lockdowns after they haven't worked he said that the definition of insanity was doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So that again is leading up to people just saying, you know what, I've had enough of pox on both your houses. I'm just going to do what I do.
I think that's what's happened here in Germany. We're such a good population. We're
Yes.
good citizens, and we do as we're told. So the first lockdown, everybody was like, all right, this is what we're doing. We're all doing lockdown.
Yes.
And our death rate is super low. Our incident rate next to the rest of the world is super low. And in our town, we had none.
Wow.
But we all locked down a second time. And then the whole population you can feel the frustration.
Yeah.
Like it's just raging in people now that they don't see the reason when we don't have the numbers to corroborate it.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
not only that, we all know fear, is not a healthy state to be in, and that kind of anger. So there has to be some reconciliation to, how much damage is that all going to do?
Right. So that makes manifestation even more important, because your ability to manifest into a different probable future is dependent a lot on you, not necessarily on external circumstances.
Taking back the power.
And magic happens because, like you said, people feel powerless.
And who are they giving their power to? People that they don't trust that making the right decisions for us.
Yeah, we've been watching The Crown, and it just makes us realize that a lot of the governors in the United States are acting like royalty, but not the good kind of royalty.
Yeah.
The off with your heads royalty, the don't do what I do what I say royalty.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, when you have a population like the United States, because yes, COVID has been eradicated in New Zealand. Our nephew married a New Zealand girl, so they're walking around like nothing's going on.
Wow.
But the population of New Zealand is less than the population of Brooklyn, New York, where I grew up.
Yeah,
That's
I think that breaks our European heads. I don't think we have a concept really. Germany is smaller than Texas, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's
Our country is so huge.
It's
and
so huge.
It's kind of based on, personal freedom. So, people don't want. But everyone we know was very cooperative, like you said,
Yeah.
during the first wave.
Yeah.
I think everyone really wanted to see an end to it, so we did whatever we had to do. But now, if that didn't work, we're not so sure. There's a lot of things that we have to use our intuitions about, and of course, our cards help with that, and our
books
intuition.
and the conference is very important. I'm not just saying it. The conference is really important because you picked quite the time. There was just a lunar eclipse yesterday, a partial lunar eclipse on the 30th. And
it's another eclipse.
And there's a solar eclipse, a full solar eclipse on the 14th of December. And that is the day the American Electoral College meets to pick the president of the United States. So, and then on the 21st, when the sun goes into Capricorn and winter officially starts in the Northern Hemisphere, there is Jupiter and Saturn are co-joining so closely that it's going to look like one planet.
I know nothing about any of that.
Well, it's a 20-year
intense.
cycle, and you picked a great time to have the conference.
But I did read something flashed through my news feed of the age of Aquarius with that happening.
Let's hope. Well, every sign has its negative. Aquarius is throwing out the baby with the
It's
bathwater,
revolutionary. Yes.
getting traditions that, taking traditions and saying, well, we can't do this anymore. Meanwhile, the tradition had a value. So that's what Aquarians have to be careful of, is throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
And the good thing for everybody is if you do want to learn astrology properly, you can come and get your course. It's on at Soltopia, I believe, with Michelle.
That's correct. Yes, they asked me to do it, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to do a 12-week intensive. At the end of 12 weeks, you're going to be able to read your astrology chart and another person's, and actually charge money for it. So I've actually taught people. We're in week number 8, but you can get all the tapes and.
I need to do it.
Well, it's like the Army. When the Army is going to teach a person a language, they put you in a house and nobody will speak your language to you. They'll only speak the other language. And if you want to find the bathroom and get something to eat, you got to learn the language. So that's what we're doing.
I did here in Germany.
Yeah. Well,
this is the first time we're doing a live presentation of quantum affirmation.
Yeah, we've never done it before.
I can't wait for that.
It's fun. Well, especially since you're a quantum person. Quantum is good stuff.
Well, I never, honestly, I sit on the fence when somebody puts the word quantum in the title.
Oh, yeah.
I think, well, we'll see if it really is.
Yeah. Well, I just want to leave with this one thing. So I had all this quantum stuff from all my studies. I went to a technical high school, Brooklyn Technical High School, for 4 years. And I've always thought of myself as a scientist, believe it or not.
I love that.
And I had all the stuff in the book, and then Amy said, we should make some videos. And when I made the video, I said a completely different thing. I channeled this whole system.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and I had to change the manuscript because what I got that just came out when I started talking was better than what I had written.
But that's fabulous.
And what happened is I thought, you know what? The spirits don't want me to go into the weeds with quantum physics, because you can get into the weeds really fast.
Oh, yeah, I can get in that.
And I kept it simple, and it worked out.
But I think that's the lovely thing, is coming from that foundation of knowledge, and then with the channel on top. I mean, that for me is being in the realms, or being in the quantum realm, is that ability to delve into it on top of the foundation that you have from your human existence.
Yes, I always think being an artist, you have to have a lot of skills. You have to be a painter and a printmaker and photographer, and then you can take off and do your own thing, because you have that same kind of foundation. But all of our books, we try to make it simple, and we make it a conversation like we're talking to you, because it can be overwhelming to learn the tarot or astrology, and we know there were fewer books when we first started learning, and they were kind of archaic
and dense.
So we like to make it fun.
Talking to you, Llewellyn's A to Z horoscope maker.
I'm not saying anything.
No, it's a great book, and I learned a lot. It's just that not everybody wants to go through the learning process, Amy and I did.
That's what happened with the astrology books and me.
Yeah, they're dense. Well, because they start, they say, here's the planets, the signs, and the houses, and then they start telling you about the angles, and you don't have the planet signs and the houses yet.
Yeah, and I'm too busy trying to learn the first bits, and then we've already jumped into something else.
Well, it's the same with early tarot books. It's like in Egypt it meant that, and in Babylon it meant this, and it's like, you don't need to know all that. Let's just get into it, what it means for our contemporary life.
Yeah, that's why I did Instant Tarot, which is from Weiser's. It's a book where I interpreted every card for all 11 positions of the Celtic cross, and then if you want to know what's your block, you just read the 3 position, what the card that's in the block position of the Celtic cross, and no one's ever done it before, because we really do like to keep things simple, and we do remember what it's like. The Zen mind, beginner's mind. We remember what it's like to not know.
Yeah, I think I tend to try and share too much information, because
your heart's in the right place, though.
I just want to share too much, and then it gets kind of confusing in the mix.
Well, if you're aware of it, then you're obviously dealing with it.
That's very true. So I think we have done my trackpad's not even working here to to end anything. I don't know what's going on here.
Well, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Tony.
We could be stuck on here all night.
Well, especially since you're the only person we've talked to in quite some time.
We look forward
true.
to.
I've seen the Oracle.
Oh yeah. Yes, that's true. But we actually have, I don't know, pierced some veil. When we're doing this with you, it's as if you're sitting in our house. We relate to you as a real person.
That's lovely.
Yeah, right here with us. We built this dedicated, we call it the Zoom pod in our house. We've been building it.
Like that.
Yeah, we have microphones and equipment and chairs, and we've made this so that we're so totally comfortable with it. And you're giving us opportunity to do it for the conference. We're excited.
So our class is 2:00 Eastern time, our New York time on Saturday, and then you're doing a special deeper,
On
going
Sunday.
deeper into quantum affirmations on Sunday at 2:00
There we go.
Eastern time.
Love it.
Can't wait.
That's what I was
Thank you
just
so
about
much.
to say.
We look forward. We
About
look forward to
3
it.
days. Only 3 days.
Oh, it's exciting.
Well, thank you for manifesting this conference.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. The links are in the description below. And obviously nip to Soultopia as well. And we will see you on Saturday.
Thank
Can't
you,
wait.
Tony. Bye.
Bye-bye
Bye-bye,
now.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Let's hope it works.